Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go through the process of starting this assignment. Let's see, if you look at the assignment instructions on the second page, I give you steps to making a 1" by 1" square that are helpful to follow, because when you follow these steps, you end up with a perfect 1" by 1" without anything hanging off the edges. And I would actually like you to work in a way that hangs objects off the edges, but in the end, we're going to crop it all neatly into a 1" by 1" square using Pathfinder. So, to start, just like it says on the first page, you're gonna save this as, you're gonna make a document, 8.5 by 11 document. You could do 7 by 9 document, but I'm gonna make it 8.5 by 11 and center and have a block of boxes that I'm gonna center, and just make this for print. Even though you're not gonna turn in a print, just use the print preset. So you're gonna go File, New, or Command N, or Create New, and go to the print preset. So potentially you could print this, put it up on your wall. Choose letter size and name it your last name followed by your first initial dash. This would be called -proj1-bw. And then next week we're going to do a save as and make a color version too. So this is your first project, project1-bw. Whoops. And I like to put it in inches for this. If you don't have it in inches, just remember 1 inch. If you're doing it in points, 1 inch is 72 points. So you do a 72 point by 72 point box. This can be portrait or landscape, and then just accept all the rest of the default settings and click create. And then I'm going to go through the steps on this next page. So the steps. So first you're going to go up to view and show grid, put show grid on, and also make sure that you check snap to grid. So 2 things under view. So you go to view and choose show grid, and view again and check snap to grid. And then you are going to take your rectangle tool and just make a perfect 1" by 1". So don't bother dragging out 1" by 1". Just click, and then you can put 1 by 1 and say okay. And this is going to be your background box. And then since it's on snap to grid, you can use your arrow keys to snap it into place right against the grid lines. I'm going to zoom in with Command plus and just tap it into place so that it's, because when you move it by dragging, it's possible to move it off the grid lines. Sometimes weird stuff like that happens, but using the arrow keys ensures that you're snapping it right into place in a very specific location, lined up to grid lines, which is important when it comes time to crop. So it'll make it easier to put a box on the top of everything like a sandwich, and use that top box, which I call the cookie cutter box in the instructions, to crop off any objects that will be hanging off the sides, off the edges. You don't want...
Professor, sorry for interruption.
Oh, no worries.
Recording the...
Yes. Yes,
oh,
this is
thank
me.
you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so as soon as you put your get your background box in place, and if you want to do an informal composition, then you'll want to go to view and take it off snap to grid, because you'll notice if I go and I try to draw out a shape when I'm on snap to grid, let's say I want to draw out a circle, and I hold shift to draw a circle and I drag, then I'm constrained to scale the circle out to the grid lines. I can't go in between. And that limits me in the fluidity of my design. I'm just limited to also to the movement, to snapping just within grid lines most of the time. And I want more fluidity now if I'm going to be doing an informal design. If you like that constraint, you can leave it. But I choose to go to View and uncheck Snap to Grid now. So now I have much more fluidity. I have many more choices I can make in how I scale an object, where I place an object. And also I like it with Snap to Grid off because see these pink lines that appear? These are the smart guides. They help me to line things up. So now I'm lining the center of my circle up to the corner of the square. That just, the smart guides were there to help me. And smart guides appear when you're not on Snap to Grid because my smart guides are checked on. I want to also think about my background box, what color I want it to be. Do I want it to have a stroke? If you like that checkerboard look, you might want to have a stroke. Maybe I want my box to be black. I'll swap it with no stroke. So I'll click none. Or you can double click on your background shape here. Or sorry, your fill to choose your own color. And you can choose any shade of gray. You can choose white, any shade of gray. Try to choose color just along this edge. Notice this edge, like it doesn't matter what color you're on here in the hue slider. Just make sure that you're not choosing a color out here with your circle. Make sure you're just moving up and down along the grayscale edge of the color selector. So you can choose gray, black, maybe I'll choose a dark gray. And say, okay.
Professor?
Uh-huh.
Can I just mention something?
Yeah, sure.
When you choose a certain gray, it can be warm or it can be cool. So if anyone does want to use gray, just be consistent in the color that it's on, because then you'll have warm and cool grays, unless that's what you're going for.
It could, yeah, you could choose warm or cool grays, but I think as long as you are, even if you have it here in the warm area, I think as long as you are adjusting the circle purely along this edge, I think that it's all very neutral, and I'm not sure if I would define any of these as warm unless I go out here, and then, or if I'm over here, then yeah, you could say this is getting warm here because it's kind of mixed with the red. Or if I go to the blue, then I'm got it cool. But we're not dealing with color yet. We're actually over here. It's purely grayscale, so it shouldn't have warmth or coolness. It should be it should actually be purely neutral. So so that's a dark gray, and then we have a circle here. But that's good you're thinking about that now, because we're going to be talking all about color and warm colors and cool colors and color schemes for next week. So I've got this circle. I purposely lined up the center right on the corner of the box. And what I like to do as part of my design work is I like to do lots of stackings of things. So I like to select the circle, for example, copy it. So it's just same as word processing, copy, Command-C on a Mac, Control-C on Windows, copy, using the keyboard shortcuts better. And then I like to, instead of just pasting anywhere with the Command-V or Control-V, I like to use paste in front or paste in back and just finish watching the lesson later if you can't stay for the whole thing. Okay, so getting back on track here, I'm going to give you guys a 10-minute break for those of you who want to just stay and watch it through tonight. In just a few minutes at 7:45, we'll take 10 minutes. But I just want to talk about stacking. Is going to be is a nice method. So you select the object, copy it. I'm on a Mac, so Command C to copy, and then I like to do paste in front using the shortcut Command F, or paste in back using the shortcut Command B. On Windows, it would be Control F or Control B. And it's easy to remember shortcuts. So Command F to paste in front, and then I can hold down Shift to constrain. If I want to scale it and I just hold Shift, that'll constrain the proportions, but it's going to scale it off center. If I want to scale it from the center so it doesn't move off center, then I need to hold down another key besides Shift. I need to hold down. Anyone know what key I need to hold down to scale from the center? I'm going to undo that. I need to hold down Option. So Option allows me to Option will anchor the object at its center, and Shift constrains the proportion so that I can scale a circle like that. Then I could do something different with it, maybe make the stroke thicker. So I can go into Properties, make the stroke thicker, maybe change the color of the stroke. You can also use in your swatches. These are the grayscale swatches that are just easy to work with, like change the color of the circle there, or if I bring the stroke to the front, then I can change the color of the stroke. And then I can copy this circle, Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front, and hold Shift and Option and scale that down. Maybe swap fill and stroke and change the color of the stroke, or turn off the stroke. I don't always need to have a stroke. Maybe do something different here, like make it a bright white. And maybe I decide, I want to have something behind this circle, so I can copy it, Command C, paste, and Command B to paste behind. And then I can change the color, make it a dark gray. And then I've got, so it looks like, if you look in the layers, let me make my layers bigger, large or larger than large, like 70 pixels large. So when you use paste in front or paste behind, it's going to look like nothing happened, but something actually did happen. I pasted a circle in the back, and now I just changed the color to a dark gray, and the circle is hiding behind the circle on top, and the circle in the back is the one that's selected. So now when I scale it, holding Shift and Option, then it's going to come out from behind, and I can kind of create an interesting circular pattern there. Maybe make one more. So I'm going to copy this one, Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front, scale this one down with Shift and Option, and maybe make it like a black circle, and maybe do a gray stroke. Maybe I'll make the stroke go to the outside, so I can click from my properties. I can click here on stroke and then choose align stroke to outside to be different. Maybe change the weight of the stroke, thicker or thinner. And then got something interesting going on in that corner. Okay, and I better save this because I don't think I saved it yet. So File, Save. And I'll save it to my folder for this class. Okay, so I'm starting this design, and I want to make sure I have interesting things to build, or larger themes to build out of the corners. So it's good to hang stuff out of the corners, off the edges of corners, off the edges of sides. don't feel constrained like that you're gonna keep your design within your 1 inch by 1 inch, because you're gonna splice everything off the edges, and it's gonna be more interesting if you hang your imagery off the sides. Maybe I want to do one more thing. I'm gonna just take one of these circles and do another Command C to copy, Command B to paste in back, and the one in the back the one in the back is now the one that's selected when I do that, and then I'm gonna hold Shift and Option and scale this one out bigger. Maybe I'll make this one be swapped fill and stroke, and maybe make I'll make the stroke thinner, and I'm gonna use a tool that's hiding under the width tool, or maybe I'll use the width tool first to make it more interesting. I'll use the width tool to alter the width of the stroke. So I'll do that, zooming in, then I'll just hover over the path and click and drag out to change the width wider on one edge, and then click and drag inwards to thin the width on another edge. Then underneath the width tool, because I've got my advanced toolbar displayed, when you click and hold on the width tool, you'll have all these other tools like the warp tool, but I want to try using the scallop or the crystallize. Maybe the scallop. Right now my tool is the tool tip for that is a perfect circle. I want it to stay a perfect circle, so when I scale it, I'm gonna hold Shift. Scaling these tools, you hold Option to change the shape of the tool tip and the scale. But I'm gonna hold Option and Shift together and scale the tool for the scallop tool to be just a little bit bigger than the shape that I want to change. And the shape that I want to change is selected, so it's going to the tool is only going to affect the shape that's selected. I'm going to hover over that selected shape and center on its center. So I put the crosshairs over its center, and then I'm going to click. Ooh, look at that. That's fun. And actually, maybe I want to scale that a little bigger, so I go back to my selection tool and I'm going to hold Shift and Option just to scale that up a little bit. I like that. I'll go with that. Okay, so then I'm going to move on to some other corner here. And maybe I want to I'm going to go to my polygon tool and draw out a polygon. I'm going to hold Shift and draw it out straight up and down. And maybe I'll just swap that to be a white fill and a black stroke. And remember, with the polygon, you can change the number of sides with the diamond by dragging up or down. And then you can turn a polygon into a flower using an effect. Did I show you guys this already? You can go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and then choose Pucker and Bloat. And then you can bloat the flower to make a flower this way, or you can make a sparkle and go the other way. I think it looks better without the stroke, so I'll say okay there, and I'll take off the stroke and put it here.
Hi, Professor. Where did you get pucker and bloat?
So that was under Effect and Distort and Transform. You hover over that and then Pucker and Bloat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Maybe I'll put the stroke back on, but do something different with it, like thin it out. I can also, from the stroke panel, which I can get to by clicking on stroke from the appearance section of properties, I can round the joints and then it looks a little cuter. And then I can line this up on the corner of this box, and I can copy that, Command C that, and paste in back, Command B that, and scale the paste in back, and maybe make the stroke thicker. See what it looks like with a thicker stroke. Or, maybe no stroke this time. And maybe I'll just make it a flower color gray. So I bring the fill to the front. I can use my swatches here. Use like a medium gray. And do kind of a stacking like that. Well, maybe the stroke would be better. Let's see, stroke. With stroke or without stroke? Let's see. That's the question. I'll go with that. And then I could select these two by shift clicking and option drag out, and then maybe do like a variation on that. Maybe without the stroke. So I click, yeah, I kind of like it without the stroke. Should I go with the stroke or without the stroke? Yeah, actually, I think I like it better without the stroke. So I'll just turn off the stroke. And then maybe do another one. So I'll select this one here, copy it, Command C, Command F to paste in front, and then Shift and Option to scale down and make it like a darker color. And then I'm going to select all these three and group them, Command G to group, and then I can scale down to create. Okay, so I'm gonna duplicate this out and change the size to create interesting variation, and I want to maybe rotate this, and I want to look at the shapes that are in the negative space, created in the negative space, make sure those are interesting and flowing nicely, and then maybe I want to do, let's see, something else in the corner here, like I'm going to take my rectangle tool and I'm going to hold down shift and draw out a rectangle, and then maybe I want to round, let's see, maybe I want to round the corners, maybe just two of the corners I want to round. So I'll take my direct selection tool, click on one corner and release, and hold shift and click and release the other corner knobs here, and then I can drag them in together and create an interesting kind of rounded edge to this square, so it kind of looks like a leaf. And then I could think about how I might position that, like maybe will that be cool? Yeah, that could work. And I could do another stacking of these. So I could copy, Command C and Command F to paste in front, and scale it down with holding Shift and Option, and do something different with that. Maybe do another one, Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front, and scale that one down, and then make that one a lighter color. So I've got some interesting stuff going on in the corners here. And then let's see, what can I put in this corner? Maybe let me see my shapes here. Put a star. Oh, I could do polygon. and make a sparkle. So with the same effect, I can go to Effect, Distort, Transform, and Pucker and Bloat. And this time, instead of bloating to make the flower, I'll pucker to make more like of a sparkle. I could keep going, make a star shape like that, or just go to somewhere like here, say okay, and I can scale it out bigger, and if I wanted to edit the effect, I could always edit the effect. Where do I go to edit an effect? You guys remember? If I want to change the pucker and bloat, I go to, it's a panel that starts with A, appearance, right? Under window, you can get it in alphabetical order, or you could use just the appearance section of the properties panel, and you can see there's pucker and bloat. I can click there and then adjust my effect differently. So maybe I want it to be more like that and say okay. And then maybe I'll center this on this corner here, and maybe rotate it around a little bit, kind of looking at the shape that this is creating here on either side here. Okay, that's kind of interesting. And then I'll just duplicate this sparkle out and change the size, and maybe make like a stream of sparkles to create movement. I can duplicate them and change the size to make it interesting, to create good contrast and variation, rotate them in different directions, and just create like a stream, just duplicating, to create a stream of sparkles down the middle that the viewer's eye can follow, that creates movement. Changing the size to make it, keep it interesting, and create a sense of movement with how they repeat and how they're kind of positioned, and create depth with the changes in the scale so that there's a twinkling effect. I could also create movement with other objects, like if I wanted kind of a bubbly effect, I could make circles too. I'm gonna just draw out some circles, maybe like a bigger circle, and swap it from fill to stroke and make the stroke a lot thinner, even thinner than that, maybe like 0.05 maybe bigger, 0.08, and then make another circle here overlapping that, maybe swap that to a fill. You can also play with opacity. Some opacity changes aren't retained, so retained those on brush strokes, so beware of doing too much stuff with opacity, because you might be disappointed when it comes to using Pathfinder. I can duplicate the circles out and kind of let them work together with the sparkles. Swap from fill to stroke and go 0.05 and draw out another circle. Bring down the opacity. Create sort of a look of sort of bubbles maybe that are moving through. tiny bubbles, big bubbles. Okay, and then I also like to play with spirals. You can make some good spirals by going to the line segment tool when you're on the advanced toolbar. You click and hold on the line segment tool, and you could go down and choose the spiral tool and draw out a spiral by clicking and dragging, and then put a stroke on it. And then I like to use the width tool on spirals so that it will look more elegant. So I would go back to where I have the scallop tool, go back up to the width tool, then go to the end here and drag in to make a fine point tip at the end, and drag out to thicken the spiral. Then I'll go to the very end and drag all the way in, and then thicken until I get the spiral I like. And then spirals are a good element that creates movement, and you can vary them in interesting ways, rotate them, scale them differently. Could be cool there maybe with the flower. Rotate them and change the color, change the size. Oops, come here, let's see. Maybe I'll do a different shade of gray there. And rotate. Maybe put this over here. I want to think about the shapes that are happening in the negative space. Like, is that going to look good there? Or is it going to be better here against that corner? Maybe I want to use this again. Or maybe I'll try making another type of leaf. Well, no, I'll go with this leaf. This is like a leaf. So I'm going to select all the parts and hit Command G to group, and then drag out a duplicate. And I'll try positioning this somewhere else. Like, I'm going to just hold Shift to rotate at a perfect 45-degree angle. And then I can line this up on the edge here and scale it, holding Shift and scaling. And it could be interesting just here, maybe here. And then maybe duplicate this out and rotate it again at a 45-degree angle, holding Shift. Maybe I'll bring this flower to the front. I'm going to group these two shapes, these two polygons that form this flower, with Command G, Control G on Windows. I'm going to bring it to the front by right-clicking, going to Arrange, Bring to Front, so it goes in front of everything. And this could be like a leaf that's under the flower, although I don't think there's enough contrast with this leaf, so maybe another type of leaf will be good. Let me try another type of leaf. So I'm going to go with my ellipse tool and draw out an ellipse. And I want to have it point on the ends. So how do I do that? I can use my direct selection tool and select an end point, and then I can use the tools that come up in properties are here. Whenever you select a point, you can convert that point from curve to corner or back to smooth. So I'm going to convert that to a corner, and then I could do the same on the other side. Or I could use a tool that goes along with the pen tool. I'm going to select this other point, so you see that the point on the other side has handles because it's on a curve. And if I go to, and I could convert it like this from to a corner. It takes off the handles, it makes it a corner. Or I can convert it back to smooth with this other button here to make it a curve again with handles. You could also convert corners from to curves and back to corners again with the anchor point tool, which is at the bottom of the stack of pen tool options. So if you click the anchor point tool, then I can hover over the point with it and click to remove the handles to make a corner, a linear point, or I can click drag to add the handles back to make a nice smooth curve, smooth on both sides, that we call a continuous Bezier curve. But I'm going to just remove the handles so I have a nice like leaf shape. Then I'm going to select that, copy it, Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front, scale it down, maybe make this a bright white. Oh, that went on the stroke, so I'll swap it and turn off the stroke. And maybe I want to make another one, Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front and scale it down, and maybe make this one a dark gray. And then let's see how that's going to look. I'm going to select all three of these shapes by shift clicking and hit Command G to group, and then I can rotate this around and put that. I'll put the flower in front again, arrange, bring to front, and have that be kind of like behind it. Could duplicate that out and rotate that around and have another one over here like that. Maybe this one will move out here, and I can duplicate this out and scale this down and bring this flower to the front, arrange, bring to front, and have that go, kind of scale that down to match, to fit that flower a little better, and rotate that. And then I could duplicate that out and rotate that. Make a flower with leaves. Maybe do like this, and I'm looking at the spacing that's being created in the negative space. Okay, now let me just make another one of these circles and change the size. Maybe one more circle and put it on right on center it here, so it's right on the edge. And maybe I want to copy this one, Command C, and paste in front, Command F, and then scale it out, and then swap it to be a stroke and make it thin, just for variation's sake, so that some interesting stuff will go on there. And now I want to make like a line to create movement. So let me save what I got so far. And so a great way to create movement down the middle, besides making trails of objects, which maybe I'll do a little more to my trail. Actually, I feel like instead I'll make these two get bigger to be more defined here. Okay, so another way is to create line. And you can create line with these line options here, like the arc tool. You saw the spiral already, like the arc could be a nice way to create a line through something. Let me just put color on the stroke. So line through the middle could work. Then you can stretch the arc out, or you can use the direct selection tool to select the end point and drag on the handles to adjust the curve of the arc. So that could be a way, but maybe not. Maybe I want something with more texture. So you could use the paintbrush tool and bring up with your paintbrush tool the brushes panel, and then you can experiment with different brushes here. Like the top brushes are calligraphy brushes, like you could choose a flat brush and then paint something that looks like a ribbon with a flat brush, or you can use a charcoal feather brush with your paintbrush, and I'm just clicking and dragging through to draw with it. And it's nice to be able to freehand draw with your paintbrush tool, because it adds a certain level of energy that creates movement as well. I would avoid the mop brush like the plague though for this assignment, because of the steps that you're going to need to do. You're going to need to, in order to use crop in Pathfinder, you're going to need to outline all your strokes. And if you use the mop brush, every time I've ever used the mop brush for this pattern project, it's crashed the system. So beware of the mop brush for this assignment. So the mop brush looks pretty cool. I'm going to change the color that I'm painting with here so we can see it. It looks like a ghost. And you can select it once you've painted with it and change the stroke weight to thin it out. But again, avoid this brush like the plague, because in the end, one of the steps is to outline all the strokes. So when you outline this mop brush, you go object, path, outline, stroke, you're going to have a multitude of shapes stacked on top of each other with a multitude of points, and that's what can really bog down the system. So I would try any other brush but the mop brush. The charcoal brush works fine. You can also go into the libraries and find additional brushes there to work with, like in artistic, the more calligraphic brushes, or artistic ink, or I like for this the chalk charcoal pencil section, just for texture. So you can choose different ones from that library, and it'll add those brushes you select to your brushes. So I could choose, let's see. So whatever I choose here, let's see. I choose that one, and then I take my paintbrush and I'll change the color of my paint back to a light color, and then I paint through. So I like that switch there. You could always use your direct selection tool and alter the stroke in different ways. You know, bend it around by moving the points if you like, to make adjustments in that way. And if you want it to be transparent, beware, because it's not going to retain the transparency, but there's a workaround for that I can show you. You could also try different textures on a selected brush. You can choose different brushes. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Looks like outer space now. And then if it's too thick, you can always narrow it down by adjusting the stroke weight thinner. That's kind of cool, like that. I kind of like that. Or this one, it's kind of nice. Maybe I want another brush stroke, so I take my paintbrush and draw something else. Let's see, like going in another direction, and then maybe make this one a thicker, like a different textural brush. Maybe not in a different direction. Maybe I want it to be more like working together. So I could do like something like that. It's doing like a crisscross thing. And then I can select it and bring down the opacity and see how it works with the different opacity. So it's just more adding a texture. Maybe this one, bring down the opacity a little bit. Maybe not that much. So it interacts with the other graphics in an interesting way. Okay, so now for the moment of truth. How this is gonna actually work. Actually, maybe I'll make it this one a little, not that much thicker, but a little thicker. Maybe point 0.3. Okay.